Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we are checking out a visual novel called It Paints Me Red. Every night you awaken in your studio and paint your masterpiece. Or at least, you try to. Oh, if only your muse would return. If only lifting your brush didn't fill your fingertips with agony. It Paints Me is a short visual novel about art and pain. It features 3,000 words, 2 endings, hand-drawn artwork, and original music. There were content warnings that appeared when I opened the game originally. Violence, death, body horror, chronic illness, grief, and dysfunctional relationships. If any of these have the potential to bother you or upset you, I have plenty of other videos on my channel that would be great watches instead of this one. Again, I never want anyone to ever feel obligated to watch, and I don't want you to have a bad time when you watch the videos. Maybe one day you can come back and watch it. It doesn't have to be today. For everyone else though, we're just gonna hop in. I'm really excited. The art style looks great. The music on this landing page is beautiful. Every night I find myself alone in the studio. Curtains drawn tight, my neat row of paints, palette and brushes in the same place on the drawer by the easel. The canvas upon it sits, as always, unfinished, Marie's half-painted face frozen in an empty song. Oh, so pretty. It's laid out, as it always is when I awaken here. Marie is nowhere to be found. She must still be at the theater. Even when the curtains fall and the stage lights dim, the night is forever young to its star sopranos. I would always wait outside her dressing room, roses in hand, scores of other bright-eyed admirers spilling through the halls, though she alone was mine, and I was hers. It's cold, bitterly cold tonight, but I still draw the curtains and open the windows wide. There's a stench in the room, deep and damp and sickly sweet, that I can't ever seem to be rid of. Besides that, the fumes from the linseed oil make my head spin. Like every night, I measure out my paints, arranging the small dabs of color on my palette from lightest to darkest. Titanium white and cadmium yellow, to corpse brown and lamp black. I wet my brush with oil and gently start mixing the pigments. It feels just a little bit like magic, watching them swirl and mix, forming new colors from old. I paint her face. I mix a tone as pale as her skin and apply it with a generous dab of oil to the motor on my canvas. But the paint just doesn't blend. The color of her cheek stands out like a garish smear. I sigh and scrape it off with a palette knife and mix a deep blend of black and red for the background instead. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course. But lately, these nightly hours are the only time I find myself able to lift my brush. I stop every few strokes. Spirits, it hurts. I had joked that the pain that forced me away from the tailor's shop meant I could finally return to my paintings, at the very least. I was never any good at humor. Marie had sensed my worries, consoled me sweetly, in her voice that could charm stone to life. "Oh, Sam, don't worry. I've roles lined up for months. Go ahead and paint. We can still live comfortably." It hurt. A small part of it did. Beyond the physical, beyond the ailments, to seek her permission. To be unable to care for my darling the way I had when we were young, brimming with talent, but crushingly unknown. Well, she had been. I was, and still am, nothing. But perhaps finally it would now be my turn to bring my vision to the world. If only it didn't hurt so damned much. Time passes and I still don't manage more than a few strokes, a small patch of dark over an already wet canvas. Or perhaps time hasn't passed at all. The broken clock on the wall would only suggest as much. Perhaps the seconds have lain still, the world outside unchanging, and I, the only thing that moves. Have I moved? Is repeating the same brushstrokes like a clockwork doll movement? I shiver and sigh. Perhaps sleep would be a better endeavor. Perhaps the next night will meet more success. I stand, setting aside my paints and palette, and slowly move to shut the windows. I stop. There, out in the front garden, barely lit by a street lamp, stands a figure that can only be Marie. She bids goodbye to another figure, tall and broad-shouldered, and then she laughs, a beautiful laugh, a heartfelt laugh, and embraces him before he makes his reluctant exit on a carriage stopped by the gate. For a moment, I don't know what to think. A friend, a co-star, perhaps that amiable tenor she mentioned every now and then. I didn't see his face, but Marie's social circle has always eclipsed my own. It must be. But why would he come to our home? Why would she laugh that way? In the garden, in the midst of walking to the front door, humming to herself, Marie suddenly looks up. For a moment her eyes go wide, and she blinks as if shaking herself from a daze. I instinctively take a step back from the windows. Perhaps it's guilt that makes me do so. Marie is finally home, and oh, I've missed her so. How could the first thing I think upon seeing my darling be the worst thoughts my mind could conjure? For the first time in many, many nights, I feel just well enough to leave the studio. I'll prepare Marie a pot of her favorite chamomile tea. I'll listen as she tells me of the nights, the theater, the 1,000 small anecdotes she never runs out of, and maybe, just maybe, ask her again to sit for a portrait for me, like she used to. The house feels larger than it used to. Perhaps I was shut in the studio too long. Still, how could I so quickly become a stranger to my own home? The memories are fuzzy, the years blur together like a wash of oil colors. My mother and I carrying our sparse luggage, stepping inside for the first time. My stepfather laughing, his elbows on the breakfast table, chattering over something he'd read in the paper. Then silent hallways and empty rooms. And then myself welcoming my new bride to these solitary halls, hanging our newly taken portraits above the mantel. The walls are barren now. I feel the walls in the dark, leaving sticky trails of paint behind, tracing the places where I used to hang. Paintings. The paintings I'd framed, the seaside landscape I'd painted on our honeymoon, the watercolor sketch of Marie that couldn't hope to capture the sheen of her hair, the still life of the roses in a cracked vase. Oh, how my darling loves roses. Gone. Cleared away. The naked walls stare blankly at me. Confused, but with nowhere else to go, I continue through the house. Honestly, the story just makes me think that the narrator is already gone, already passed away. Things have been sold to make up for it. As I walk, I pass the furniture my stepfather left me. The shelves and tables that always seemed so large and grand as a boy, now missing or mantled in thick white linen. They remind me of corpses on a hospital table, lying dead still, covered in sheets. Marie? I try to call out, but phlegm blocks my throat. I cough, long and drawn and wet, and then once more attempt to voice her name. Marie. It slicks off my tongue like a serpent uncoiling. I had always loved her name, so tender and sweet, free of harsh syllables. Marie. It was a name like an impressionist fleur, painted in soft strokes with a fine oil brush. It was the greatest joy in the world to join my name to hers. Silence fills the halls, a long, drawn-out silence, a held breath. Finally, my darling answers. Sam? Is this a dream? I cough again, another long, wet trail dripping from my lips. Is it a good dream, darling? I don't know, it feels like a nightmare. An awful, wretched nightmare. I limped towards the sound of her voice. So musical, so lovely, even at the brink of tears. Don't cry, darling, I want to say, but thick, syrupy liquid fills my throat. No matter what troubles you, I am here. She stands at the edge of the staircase, shaking, a candlestick in hand. The steps are sticky and wet. I inch carefully, practically at a crawl, not to slip. My darling lifts the candle as I approach. In the dark of the house, its flickering flame almost blinds me. I don't see the expression on her face as she screams. Oh my God. Marie, where are you, my darling? Every word feels like a dagger punching my throat. I limp down each hall, leaving a trail of steps that feel damp and heavy, slick and wet. Oh my goodness, well, I guess we weren't dead then. I tried the door to our bedroom. No, Marie's room. I had started sleeping in the spare one when my coughing fits would wake her in the night. It was cold, so cold alone, but my darling needed her rest. The knob is slick and hard to twist, my hand slipping on the brass. Finally, I managed to push the door open. Though it's completely dark when I peer inside, I know it is empty. No warmth, no flesh, no sound of sweet breath within. I continue down the hall. I trudge, my steps heavy and wet, trying not to slip over the thick, slick surface. Marie? What's wrong, darling? Please come out. I don't understand. What did we do to her? The dining room is empty. Truly empty. The shelves where china and silverware were once neatly stacked now gape, hollow. The walnut table is covered in a thick white sheet, the matching set of chairs removed. I rest against the blanketed table. My hand leaves a ruddy smear against the sheet. It must be more paint, though it's hard to make out in the dark. I needed spectacles for quite some time, but Marie had never liked the bookish type. I continue on through the familiar yet unfamiliar house, my steps strained and slow, my breath short, sticky, wet. Marie, where are you? Oh, Marie, it hurts. Won't you come to me? I hear the front door slam shut. It must be freezing cold out. Why has she gone to the garden? I tread to the sound with new urgency, uncaring of the sticky, wet floors, forgetting just for a moment the pain that snaps and burns through my flesh. I reach for the oily, damp knob. Oh, don't, Sam, please. Her voice rings from behind the door. I don't understand, darling. Have I done something to upset you? Her sobs echo loudly. I never thought an ugly sound could come from my darling's lips, but her words. I love you, Sam, I always will, but I can't bear to see you like this. Please, I beg of you, return to where you came from. You can't be here, I've moved on now. So, we must have died or something. Are we like a corpse that has returned from death? What? Return where? Dearest, you aren't making sense. Moved on? I'm your husband, Marie. What on earth is there to move on from? Please remember, Sam. You were ill. You were ill for a long, long time, and you never recovered. I know that I'm unwell, Marie, but you said we would still. Are you leaving me? Because I can't care for you anymore? Is that why? You left me. Oh, I'm presuming. Oh boy. You're dead, Sam. You've been dead for more than a year. If this is a joke, darling, it's a cruel one. Do you want me dead? Is that it? Am I better off dead to you? My darling does nothing but sob behind the door. How quickly I regret my words. Oh, if only I could see her face, look her in her eyes, reassure her, and see that she loves me still. I twist the knob with slick, oily hands. No, don't come out, please. On the other end, with a sharp gasp, my darling grasps the knob closed, pushing the weight of her small frame against the weathered wood. Don't come out! Ooh, I'm presuming this is where we make a different choice for the ending. And then force the door open is obviously a bad one, but let's do it, and then we'll follow up with the other. No, not until you tell me what's going on. Are you leaving me, darling? After everything? I need you. I need you. My darling utters a sharp cry as the hinges groan against the frame, loosening her grip as she stumbles back onto the cobblestone path. I instantly forget her sharp words as I limp towards her side. Marie, are you alright? I'm so sorry. Stop it, Sam. I'll keep you alive. Every time I sing, I'll sing for you. I'll keep you in my song, in my art. Oh, but it hurts. Her shrill voice grates against the ooze spilling forth from my ears. It hurts. It hurts! My head rings. My chest is a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, flowing with hot, sickly fluid. I cough and spew more syrupy, warm liquid from my lips. Your art? It was always about you. Your fame, your voice, your needs, your wants, your desires. You are a work of art, and of course. But did you ever think about me? Did you ever think about poor Sam dying alone in a cold white room? Poor Sam who couldn't even hold a brush in his hands at the end. Poor Sam left to rot into nothing. A year was all it took to forget me. I'm shaking her, leaving smears of dark, muddy paint over her pale shoulders. It is, of course, not paint if you have not gathered that so far. The next moment she breaks from me, running blindly into the street. The carriage doesn't stop for her. Of course it doesn't. My dearest is a wisp of dark curls, a black gown billowing in the night like a shade. She should be light as a breath, soft as mist. But the song that comes is the scream of her breaking bones, her ripping flesh, the breath that leaves her lungs. Ah, but every sound my darling makes is beautiful. Oh boy. I scoop her mass of flesh and deep crimson hair in my arms. Her blood pools around me, syrupy and dark, a color so deep no artist's pigment could hope to capture, the pure scarlet or vermilion red, a dull stain in comparison. It is not Sam that I am seeing stare back in the deep pool of our blood. Oh my gosh. A rotting corpse, but something horrible is happening with your mouth and your tongue, or is that just the spilling of liquid from your body? No wonder she was horrified, but she even had, the courage to try and talk to us. My darling is a lovely creature, even broken. I gently carry her up the steps, one slick, damp, crooked step at a time, setting her mass of jutted bone, of viscera and flesh, on the velvet seat in my studio. The fabric soaks it deep, so very deep. It is dark, as it is every night. I leave the lamps unlit, the windows shut tight. How strange that the stench of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. My darling, sit still, ever so still. not a breath escaping her broken flesh. What a lovely model. Oh, what a wonderful thing. All the more beautiful now that it surely hurts to sing. Oh my goodness. Oh, it is agony to hold a brush. It always is. But I can bear it. Oh boy. After all, who can truly create without pain? Oh my gosh. Oh, I love the changes. It looks very good. It's haunting and horrifying and evil, demonic, possessed. Ending 1, Muse. Alright, we'll hop in, we'll get the other ending. Hopefully it's a good one and we'll feel better. We'll paint her hair this time. I blended dark, deep red and apply it with a generous dab of oil to a patch of background that blends in with Marie's hair. I didn't have to. The paint is still wet from the last night and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. This is the photographs. The walls are laid bare, the pictures that hung on the pale wallpaper are gone. Blurry gray photographs of my parents, myself as a boy, and Marie. Oh, so many pictures of Marie, each displayed in a filigree frame. Gone. I let her go now. I let go of the door, my hand slicking off its oily surface. Forgive me, Marie. I can see you don't wish to speak to me right now. Whenever you do, whatever this is about, I'll be waiting in the studio. I leave the door. I leave my darling alone, sobbing in the garden. I mean, she's just seen death itself come for her. It's dark, so very dark, but dawn will soon paint that dim black sky. I retrace my slick, wet footsteps through the hall, up the staircase, one trudging, damp step at a time. Spirits, it hurts. It burns. I feel no breath in my lungs. My chest could be a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, spilling with hot, sticky fluid. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. I stagger into a tall, sheet-covered object, the linen sliding off with the grasp of my clumsy, slick fingers. A mirror? It's Marie's floor-length mirror. No. Oh, no. No, 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 no. Oh, it's us. It's a good transition. It looks great. We're very red. Oh, we're angry. The fades and transitions look great. I'm in the studio. A dark, dim studio, as empty as it is every night. The curtains are shut. The lamps are unlit. My palette is a mess of murky colors, rust reds, corpse browns. A musky, sickly, sweetly rotting stench fills the room. I don't know why the smell of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. The handle of the door turns behind me. Slowly it creaks open, and a figure steps inside. It's me. He limps more than he steps, in crooked motions against the floor, dragging his body along like a wet, wide brush as swaths of red pool at his feet. I watch him pull himself before the canvas. Samuel. He speaks in my mother's voice, a pitched cry of command and dependency, derision and affection, pride and disappointment. Give up your suffering. Give up this. Come into the earth with me. My hands are too slick to hold my brush. I stab it into my flesh and fix it between my bones, then dip the bristles into his blood. Sammy. He speaks in my stepfather's voice, wistful, choking back tears, the same cadence of his goodbye as he hugged me against his uniform, the dog tags cold around his neck. Don't suffer any more, Sam. Forget your pain. You are nothing already. Come into the void with us. My brush is drying. I plunge it into his chest, wet it with his oily breath. Sam. He speaks with my voice, hoarse and raspy and tired. So very, very tired. This won't make you worthy of love. Not the world's, not Marie's, not your friends or peers or critics. Come back to our grave. End our suffering. You know I don't do this for love. I clean my brush with a paint thinner, knocking over the jar as it spills across the drawer and onto the wet, soaken floor. I dry the bristles on my worn, rotting shirt, then soak it in the thick, white mucus of his tears. My words are only partially true, just as his words are not fully wrong. Neither my rotting corpse nor the memory of what was once Sam will gain a thing from this toil. I paint the hours away, or perhaps take no time at all. The clock on the wall never turns its hands, suggesting that the world lies still, the seconds never pass, and I am the only thing that moves within it. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Heavy, syrupy tears flood my vision, fill my throat, my chest, choking me. Every movement of my hands leaves cracks in what's left of my brittle bones. He stares at me all the while, silent, still, like a mirror. If I loved him, I would stop. I would crawl to my grave like he wishes. But I love this more than I love myself. I birth him from within me. As I create, so too am I born. And he and I are beautiful. You are beautiful. Ending 2, self-portrait. Music, art, story, programming, and sound design by Indices, Sam voice clips, Morgan Mizumi. Thank you for playing. Lovely game. The art is beautiful. I do wish that some of the scenes were better illustrated, like when Maria is going outside, when she's being held, or when she's holding against the door, when we are pushing against it. I think there's only so much you can do without giving away Sam's appearance, which is understandable. But since we are the protagonist and we are Sam, it would be nice to see what Sam is seeing. Or at least, it doesn't have to be crystal clear, like when Maria's on the screen as a full body, render basically. It could just be illusions of shape. I feel that being a visual narrative, it could use a few more. There's scenes drawn that feel like they were drawn because they are simple and something was needed. However, where things are desperately needed to help paint the setting feels fairly empty. The music is lovely. The art that is there is great. I really like it. I like the portraits of each character. I like the different emotions. I like seeing the suggestive differences between Sam's personal work and the actual images of them. Seeing the differences between their beautiful silhouettes and then them completely enrobed with broken bones and blood and viscera is great. The sounds work really well. The pacing is good. The writing is lovely. I would read an entire book in this writing style. It is gorgeous. Beautiful game. If you would like to play it yourself, or if you would like to leave any comments for the devs, you can leave them over on Itch.io. The link is down below. You can leave comments for me here if you would like. What did you like about the game? Do you find the characters fascinating? It's very Victorian Gothic horror in feeling, in overall vibe. I feel for Sam and I feel for Marie. They neither have it easy. It's horribly sad that this is the fate that Sam has come to. Not being able to move on, not being able to let go. By the same hand, we can see that Marie is trying to, but ultimately she is haunted constantly by what we can only presume was once the love of her life and still is. She's still here, she's still in the home, she returns, she's making strides where she can, but ultimately, if we do not break the bonds and chains that bind us, we will be returning to them so consistently that it's like we never made a change at all. That has been it for this video. I'm glad you joined. I hope you liked it. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.